Hey everyone, what is going on? I'm Matthew Oliver, and this is Stillwater Alchemy, the podcast, episode 7 Timelines. In today's episode, we are going to be discussing the idea of timelines in general, jumping timelines, collapsing timelines, and how we can shift our day-to-day life to move into a different space to get us closer to our soul's overall goals and objectives. So let's dive in, shall we? This topic of timelines is something that I personally love because it's something that, especially if we look at the astrology, is happening all of the time when we go through a certain Jupiter transit, when we go through a nodal transit, when we go through the eclipses. There's so many situations that in at least one or in multiple parts of our life, we are shifting, we are evolving, we are letting things go to build something else so that when we get to a certain point of our soul's journey, we know what to do. A very easy example of this is when you go to school. You're in elementary school and then middle school and then high school. You are building a foundation of knowledge. And you're also building experiences with potential extracurricular activities or friendships that you're making or opportunities outside of that community, outside of that network of education, so that when you graduate high school, you can then choose to do whatever you want. If you go to university, get a degree, again, you're acquiring knowledge, maybe internships, maybe part-time jobs to then support a career. So when you get to that career, you've built up experiences. You've built up the feelings of connecting with certain people in that career space or in community space to feel like you belong, to feel like you know what you're doing, to feel like you're in alignment. Okay. And this whole topic too of like collapsing timelines, quantum leaping, all of these things, if we do not feel safe, if we do not feel like we are going to be able to perform, if we feel like we are going to fail, it is very, very unlikely that you are going to move into a different space. Let's use this example. If you were petrified of planes and you wanted to go across the world, and the only way to do that would be to hop on a plane and you were scared for your life that you were going to die by going on that plane, you probably wouldn't go to that destination. You're like, I really want to go to Timbuktu, but I have to go on a plane to go to Timbuktu, so I'm not going to do it. If you really want to get married, if you really want to run your own business, if you really want to have your dream body, but there's something in you that doesn't feel safe, whether that's you'll be humiliated if you go to a workout class, whether that is if you get that dream job, everyone will hate you, whatever these beliefs are that potentially you inherited from your family, from society, from your culture, this is what we have to address, right? So let's say you worked on that fear of being on a plane. You went to therapy. You visualized feeling safe. You worked on the core root of why that fear is there to begin with. Maybe trusting people that you can't see. And then you went through that whole self-discovery. And then it was parents that abandoned you. And then you had these other figures in your life that weren't visible, that betrayed you. This is all hypothetical. I'm just making this up off the top of my head. But there is a reason why we are afraid to go to that next level, whatever that root cause is. And a lot of times it's this colloquial vibration of one thing I hear all the time. It's like the honeymoon phase will eventually fade in relationships. Like whenever I talk to people that are brand new, it's like, well, eventually, like this is the honeymoon phase. I'm like, why? Like if that phrase never existed, I'm sure majority of humans would never even have it in their consciousness. And in my mind, I'm like, why wouldn't the passion increase? I'm sure many of you listening, watching have had certain love interests or lovers that each time you meet them, it gets better and better and better. And if you haven't yet had that experience, then I would put that on the manifestation timeline wish board because it's a vibe. But going back to this example of feeling safe, feeling worthy, feeling that anything is possible, if you knew that, and you started attracting relationships that believe that, you started putting yourself in environments where you are seen, where you are appreciated, where you have the right mentors, the right teachers, the right coaches. That is what we're getting at, right? And this is where, if you're wanting to jump timelines to whatever that is, but you're not changing anything that you are doing in your day to day, how do you honestly expect things to change? Truly, like ask yourself that question. If you're not changing anything within your day to day, and you want to see a massive change in your life, a massive change to your body, your home, your health, your finances, how is that going to happen? And I'm not talking about massive change. We talked about this in an earlier episode in Stillwater Alchemy, the podcast, of doing the work. It can literally be waking up 10 minutes early and doing 5 minutes of gratitude and 5 minutes of stretching and keeping that consistent. That is a significant change because now where you are building a foundation to start calling in more things to be grateful for, you are setting the foundation for that frequency to be persistent through the entire day. Back in the day, if they had to go to a well to collect water, to be able to have that water to drink, to bathe, to be able to do all the things that they need for that water for the day, if no one went to the well to get the water, to bring it back to the home, how would they have the water? They would be thirsty. They would need to go buy water. They would need to go beg for water. When you wake up first thing in the morning, you are setting yourself up for success. So that is, in my opinion, one of the easiest things you can shift is what are you first consuming? What are you first doing? What are you first thinking when you wake up? That in itself is creating a brand new timeline. Because if we're going to, and this is the next part of this episode, what is the origin point? What is the catalyst that is making you change? Most times it's a contraction from my experience with clients, whether that is their body is deteriorating, their mental health is really bad, their relationships are on fire and not in a good way. They are feeling unaligned. They are feeling like everything is going wrong, which then causes them to shift something in their life, whether it's taking time off, whether it's prioritizing relationships, whether it's working on their health, whether it's hiring more support. But we don't have to wait for things to be dire to switch things. Also, in my experience, both professionally and personally, you know intuitively when something is off, whether that is off in the city that you live in the relationships that you're in the work that you are doing. It just takes the courage to be vulnerable, to have those conversations, to say, this isn't working. My body is telling me no. I feel called to switch things. And that can be hard, especially when there's nothing inherently bad on paper or in life with that relationship. But if you know that something isn't aligned and your higher self, your spirit team is shouting at you to make a change, you have to have that discernment and that own connection with your intuition to say, okay, I know that something massive is about to come, let's say 6 months in a year. Also, 6 months to a year is nothing. That really is zero time. I think in our heads, we've just been so warped to want everything now and immediately, and we see everyone else getting it now and immediately. And so when we don't get it now and immediately, we freak out. That doesn't make any sense. For all the children of Saturn, you know how it is to play the long game, that is. So if you're thinking, okay, in 6 to 12 months, a massive shift is going to happen in my life. If I know that I'm going to have this massive upgrade, this massive level up, what foundation do I need now to support me, including my health, my home, my relationships, my mindsets, my routines? These are all the things that are going to support you because guess what? It doesn't matter what area of life we're talking about. Again, linking it to the astrology, there are 12 different houses in your natal chart. So any one of those 12 houses could get a significant upgrade. There can be multiple houses that are getting multiple upgrades at the exact same time. And then that's where humans can spiral in terms of dropping everything to focus on those things. So of course, these are big blessings. But then you want to be able to maintain everything else that you've worked for at the exact same time, and vice versa. If there's a couple things that are going really poorly on paper, or things that are contracting all at once, if you've built the foundation, if you've built the structure to support yourself, it's easier to tend to those areas that are turbulent, that are stagnant, that are frustrating, than if you had no structure at all. So structure number one. Number two, going back to the origin point. I'll give a personal example. So in my natal chart, I have Mars combust to the sun. Mars has some redeeming qualities in my chart, but I'm also a date chart. So Mars is going to be the greater malefic. And we want to use these words because they are what they are. It doesn't mean that malefic is bad necessarily. It means that it can cause or has the potential to cause more harm than good if not treated, right? Like let's say you are lighting a candle in the home. You light multiple candles. You do not blow the candles out. The candles have a higher potential of burning the entire place down than had you just had fake candles or lights, right? And so we need to be mindful that when we're working with Mars in the day chart, that it can be Martian, that it can cause pain, injuries, many Martian things. So throughout my life of my health journey, my workout journey, I've had multiple overuse injuries or multiple things that I've had to get support to heal on ever since I was in high school. And recently there was a time where my elbow was really affected after I worked out. I'm like, okay, this is insane. I need to really get clear and concise on this so that I don't need to keep going through this repetitive cycle of like build, 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 and then an overuse injury that then takes me 2 to 4 weeks to recover from, and then go and repeat this cycle over and over again. And so that was my origin point to then just look at my workouts and say, I don't need to work out for an hour and 15 minutes. I actually don't. I can work out for 35 minutes, 40 minutes, 45, take 10 to 15 minutes to fully stretch everything. My gym recently put up this booth by the stretching area of really high end, like foam rollers and roller balls and massage guns. So I just take those massage guns now every single workout. I go on my forearm. I go through the other parts of my body that have been prone to injury. I like really focus on all the rehab exercises every single workout. And to no one's surprise, my body's feeling a lot stronger, a lot healthier because I did not want to keep going through that cycle of build, 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 overuse injury, rehab, rehab, rehab. So then I just made a change. And again, it was just my own mindset. I'm like, why am I working out for 60, 75 minutes when I can do a shorter workout and still honor the feminine, balancing the masculine of nourishing my body, stretching my body, slowing down, and still doing active feminine work to balance out the active masculine work within that wellness space of my workout. And that's all it is. One little tweak. I just shifted time. I shifted 10, 15 minutes. I'm still in the gym for the same amount of time, but I'm shifting how I'm spending time in the masculine versus the feminine. And all of you can do that in whatever area you're wanting to jump timelines. So for my example, I'm jumping timelines because now I no longer am even thinking about overuse injuries because I know that if I keep this foundation, if I keep these structures in place, then I'm just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger for the rest of my life. There's no need for me to replay the narrative, to replay the story that I have overuse injuries unless I want that to be true. We're healthier, we're stronger, we're getting better and better each day. And that just comes from constant repetition. If you know that you go into your job and can belt the highest note and sing the greatest songs and everyone praises you, you can do that anywhere in the world. You might have greater stages or getting paid more money. And of course, you'd be working through your own any fears, limiting beliefs as you go higher and higher and higher. But if you do that every day, all day, then it's likely that the next level would you be branching out or doing other things outside of singing to expand your power, your affluence, or maybe you're building in relationships or health or whatever that is. My point is, again, for these timeline shifts, for this quantum leaping, you need the foundation. If you can't even jump, how are you supposed to leap? Like, if we're talking about quantum leaping, no one talks about, at least from the content that I've like looked on in this, is that one, you're going to need to feel safe. You're going to need to feel safe. You're jumping through a portal that you know that you're going to land on the other side and not die or be sucked into the portal and vanish. And that again is maybe superfluous. I'm not trying to be uh, facetious. However, we all know that if we have a fear that is greater than the faith in our action, then obviously the fear is going to weigh out unless there's something that really galvanizes the faith to break through the fear, which can happen usually through the support of relationships around you, that everyone's supporting you so that that support, that love tips the scale that gives the faith strengthened by love to overpower the fear. And that would be the last thing that I would talk about here is that we talked about the routines in terms of the foundation, the origin point, the catalyst, but having that constant support, whatever that support is for you. For me, a big one, support is food and nutrition. When my energy is correct, when my body is feeling safe and strong, I can do anything. When my body starts hurting, if I ever get sick, like I do not operate well. So I know for me personally, I will have a fridge stocked full of juices, elixirs, fresh produce, all the things that I need so that if I know I'm working a lot, that I can easily get that nourishment for me. For others, it's going to be the mental health, to have good relationships, to have loved ones that they can text, that they can call, that they can send memes to, whatever they need to feel that mental, cerebral, social aspect of having that support, that they can talk about their feelings at the end of the day and feel heard and supported. Right? For some, it's going to be the financial support that when they need something, they don't have to do anything. They can just swipe, click, and whatever they need gets dropped off right at their door. But it's being honest with the type of support that you need. And again, setting up that foundation so that it gets to be a part of your everyday life. And the last kind of fourth topic slash something I think is not utilized enough is recognizing when you're in that new timeline, when you have shifted things, when things are getting better, whether that's just to yourself, but ideally with close loved ones, to also kind of keep yourself accountable so that it's less likely for you to go back into an old timeline. Because people do it all the time, right? It's like you go back to an old job, an old relationship. Not that that's bad. I've seen it a lot where the client is about to reach a massive breakthrough, and due to fear, then it's easier to go back into an older timeline that feels safe, that feels comfortable, right? It's like watching a new TV show or watching a show that you've seen 10 times. It's like, well, I know the show I've seen 10 times is going to be good. So let's just watch that one because you know what it feels like. You know what to expect. But that new show could become your new favorite show. That could spur all this motivation, all this excitement, all this inspiration if you just give it a chance. But that's again where the faith and the fear comes into play. But if you have relationships, you have the support that is going to keep you accountable, that's going to keep you excited to stay in that new timeline, then eventually the new timeline becomes the normal. That you look back at older timelines and say, I have so much empathy and compassion for those old timelines. I have so much gratitude for that timeline because it got me to be in this place. But I feel so much better. I'm so grateful that I released, that I surrendered, that I healed to be here. And now I can just frolic in this timeline. Or if this level is easy, then I'm on to the next level, the next timeline. So what's that catalyst going to be? What is the foundation that you're going to need? What is the support that you're going to need to then jump timeline, to then collapse timelines, right? So these are things I just want you to sit with, to mull over, see if it resonates. These are usually the steps that are pretty standard every single time. And once you know that, then it's easier and easier to adjust. And if I had to just pick one personally, it's like your intuition. Your intuition knows when things are about to change. Your intuition is giving you the nudges. The one thing that can get in the way is the fear or the judgment from others, from family, from friends, from colleagues, from whomever. It's like, well, are they going to think that I'm crazy, quote unquote, or that this is completely insane, quote unquote? Like, why is it insane for you to trust your intuition? Why is it crazy for you to trust in yourself? Why is it out of the norm for you to invest and go all in on your soul's purpose? If we switch the narrative and we have people that are fully supportive, then that is going to be the driving force, being like, I know I'm only surrounded by people that want to see me succeed. So whether that's here, whether that's across the world, whether that's a different job, whether that's in a different relationship, these people in my life want to see me succeed. They're going to hold me accountable. They're going to make sure that I don't drop all my obligations or tools that I know work, but these people in my life make me feel safe. These people in my life want to help me, to support me. Thus, again, you have that foundation and that trust that no matter what happens, no matter what portal you jump through, no matter what timeline you end up in, you have that support. And if you don't yet have that support, that's where putting yourself in certain environments, in certain communities, in certain groups is going to help, because then you find your people. I'll share one last personal example. So I've always loved video games. Video games are a vibe. There can sometimes be this negative stigma around video games and men, and that they're like quote unquote losers or have nothing to do. What's interesting is that if we think of video games as a device of pleasure, what you do for fun, then it'd be like judging someone for doing a puzzle or judging someone for reading a book or judging whatever. I'm not condoning people that play video games all day, every day, and don't prioritize any other avenue. But if you do it as a sense of this is what brings me joy and what brings me pleasure, live your best life. And recently, I've been really, the past 6 months, in this voiceover community that specializes primarily in video games. And there's people like all over the world in this community, usually meet up once or twice a week over Zoom. There's different scripts that you work with. Everyone supports one another. It is a vibe. And to have all these people reference different video games, different styles, I'm like, this is it. It's more of like the fantasy genre of video games. so that you feel seen, that you feel like your interest, what you're curious about is supported. And all that was for me was paying a one-time yearly fee, which was a write-off, given that I do this as another business. And then I get to have all of this support that I know once or twice a week I get to be around people that I also genuinely really like, that are really cool, that I want to see succeed. And it's kind of like this other family when you have that type of community that you know there's just so much love and support and that everyone gets to win. Like there's enough food at the table, there's enough money in the bank account, everyone gets to win. But you have to put yourself in those environments, even if it means sometimes traveling to those destinations or making a more of an effort every week to get there. But if you don't see that as important, and nothing is changing and you're not feeling good, then it's up to us to take that accountability to say, what type of support, what type of community, what type of trusting energy do I need in my life to move things forward, for me to collapse timelines, for me to quantum leap, for me to move into that next environment. Because if you're not going to feel safe, it's not going to work. If you don't feel loved and supported, it's probably not going to work because it's a lot to do on your own. It's a lot to feel those feelings without having the experiences and trusting that those feelings are going to be enough. If you're told and supported and have that every day in multiple forms, plus you can generate for yourself, amazing. But if you never had that growing up and you never had it when you were a teenager, you never had it when you were a college student, and now you're an adult in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, you are now reprogramming 30, 40, 50 years of beliefs and experiences to now believe that X, Y, and Z is possible. And the more experiences you have in your day to day of people loving you, supporting you, you trusting them, it'll make it easier and easier for that to be your new timeline and let go of everything else. Okay. So let that marinate, let that sink in. I feel like this is an episode that you can come back to at multiple stages of your soul's journey to get a little bit more usage, wisdom, golden nuggets from. As per usual, if you're watching this on Stillwater Alchemy's YouTube page, you can leave questions in the comments and I'll do my best to get back to them as soon as possible. And this is always the thing that is such a human device. But if you are listening on a podcast app and feel inclined to give a fabulous, beautiful review, I would always be grateful and appreciative. The wisdom can spread to all corners of the universe for those that need it. I'm wishing you all a fabulous rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon. Stay blessed. Bye. I'm so obsessed with this scarf. I don't know why, but I feel like scarves just make everything so much more luxurious. Plus, it's autumn, so it's just a vibe. What do you think? Let me know.